The Integrative Nurse Podcast, a space to discuss and explore integrative practices with the mission to connect modern day medicine with holistic wellness. We're gonna have some sound tools like a rainfall.
Yeah.
This is us. But really, this is us.
But seriously, this is us.
So who are you, Vicky Dennis?
So I was born Victoria Lynn Rutkowski in 19. Blah, blah, blah. I am me. I am a mom. I'm a nurse practitioner. But before all that, it's like another lifetime. I was brought up in a very musical household. I grew up thinking I would become a musician, just like my big brother and my family before me, right? And I feel like it was such a gift to be in that space growing up. I didn't know anything, differently. And now having studied the ages and stages, both in like Western medicine and alongside Marin with the sound vocal transformation in the chakras and how we develop through them, I can look back at my life and see how music integrated so differently in each of those stages of my life. And so as part of the stages of my most recent discovery, which is crystal sound bowls, just, a handful of years ago, not that long ago, 2017, 2016, actually, I received my first sound healing with the practitioner who is an intuitive. And she had said to me then, "You're going to school for nursing?" Yeah. I see it like this integrative nursing thing for you. Do you know anything about that? And so that's when I started to really explore.
Wow.
There's a reason in my life why I didn't become a doctor, why I didn't become a musician. And I'm here now practicing as a nurse practitioner for kids and literally integrating everything that I've felt in my heart since way back when I was little. So who am I is like a really tough question, as you know, because you'll answer it in a moment for yourself. But it is all the things up until now. And maybe even before I was even, in this human suit, this earth suit of mine, right? It's like, who are we really? But all of these things that I've grown up identifying with has really been because they were calling me. So I am a nurse practitioner. I practice in pediatric urology currently. My degree is in pediatric primary care. And I have two daughters, two amazing daughters. In 2017, I was divorced, which is a pivotal moment. And much like a lot of people have pivotal moments in their life, I also had heart surgery in 2016 that kind of led into all of this transformation. So timing, my dad would say, God rest his soul, timing is everything, right?
Sure
And
is.
he was a drummer, so he really held true to that. Timing is everything. So I feel blessed that now I can take what I've learned in this space, in this alternative medicine realm, and bring it to my patients and especially the families and the people I work with. Shh. So I hope that and you'll learn more about me as we go on, right? And Lauren, tell me a little bit about your story and who you are.
Who am I? I am a firstborn daughter. And ever since I was little, I always knew I wanted to take care of other people, including my siblings. And then when I was about 14, my mom, who is a nurse, really coaxed and encouraged my evolution or interest in the idea of nursing and becoming a nurse. And I remember taking a first responder course my freshman year in high school and just being so unbelievably impressed and wowed by the human body and just all of the incredible things that it has the capability of doing. And then I went to nursing school. I became a nurse. I've been a nurse now for 14 years and working in downtown Boston. And in 2015, I was diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma, and I was a nurse who became a patient. And around that time, I had begun to be involved with learning Reiki, and I had started using it with some of my patients and really noticed the shift. And so when I, in turn, became a patient, my openness to trying new things that were out of the so-called ordinary, out of the modern day medicine world, really became a draw for me to start to explore. And throughout my own journey of surgeries and emergency room visits and, hours upon hours in the infusion clinic getting immunotherapy drugs for quite some time, it really nudged me towards receiving something more than just what we're told to receive as far as, the world of medicine as it is, at least in 2015. And so I tried acupuncture, I tried, massage therapy, music therapy. And it wasn't until a few years after my diagnosis that a friend invited me to a sound bath, and I had no idea what a sound bath was. I asked if I needed a towel, considering that it was potentially involving water. But then I realized that no, it's not anything to do with water. It is just simply being bathed in the sounds. And that experience made me feel like I was floating, like I was feeling in this, I was awake, but I wasn't asleep, or I wasn't asleep, but I wasn't awake either. And I was just in this in between of what I now know is like a meditative state. And to me, that was so foreign. And being a nurse, I was so curious to understand why, like what was happening. And so from there, it's been an evolution of learning and growing and integrating. And one of the things that I think you and I will certainly continue to explore for this podcast is integrative nursing and what that means and how it can continue to be, weaved into the modern day world. We are holistic beings, and therefore treating the person as a whole instead of just body parts or individual organs. And recognizing this and the shift in the world since the pandemic in 2020 and how much people understand, the number one cause of most diseases is stress. When you are in dis-ease, you get disease.
Mhm.
And so I think I can speak for the both of us where our goals are continually to integrate and to share new ways of health and to share new ways of bringing this to the modern day space of medicine.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that's, and one of the big things that has occurred for me has been bringing in sound to the hospital where I work for my staff, because that is something that I've noticed since, especially with the pandemic, is how burnt out staff are. And as again, there's so many different studies, and I'm sure we will continue to be referencing some of them. But the biggest piece that we know and that is recognized worldly is, happy employees and, positive work environments create really great outcomes. And so that also matters in hospitals, healthcare settings, and how important that is to match that energetic frequency and as we give it out to the world and our patients.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. I I want to tell you a story. You just like made me think about So it is, as you know, but not everybody knows, is I wasn't a nurse even as long as you are. I went through a program that was an accelerated program, and I went as an adult. I had lots of other young adults in classes with me because it was still a graduate program. It was accelerated NP program. And the first day, we're all nervous going in. We know that it's an intense 3 years full time. And a lot of times the first semester, like you get the word on the street that it's tough. A lot of people don't make it through the first semester, right? So this is the first day of class, and it's a very general nursing foundational class. And all of us have some kind of science in our background because we have to have it in order to apply. And they ask us to write on a piece of paper about what brought us here. So even just this conversation you and I are having right now is like, what brought us to nursing? And I'm thinking, okay, we're not sharing it. We're just writing it down to kind of get in the right space. So I'm writing it down in my notebook. And really the gist of it was, I don't have it in front of me right now, but the gist is that, kind of what I told you already is that, all of my life events leading up until this point has brought me. I know this is my calling. I know this is what I meant to do. When my daughter was born, now almost 17 years ago, I had an awesome labor and delivery nurse, and I heard about this accelerated program, which was a year. She had just graduated 6 months, and I was like, I'm here like birthing my firstborn as I'm also birthing this idea that, wow, I want to be involved. And of course, you have all the wonderful hormones running through your system. And I'm like, yes, as I'm birthing my child, I'm birthing this wonderful purpose. My life purpose is here happening, being a mom, being a nurse, whatever. So it took a while. I took classes, to prerequisites and to getting into this point. So in this little piece of paper, this intro, it's like, I know that I was meant to do this for a while, and I really worked my life into it. I had already been a Reiki practitioner, volunteering at the hospital and holding babies at a hospital in Boston just to volunteer and to get this experience to care for other people in this setting. And if I'm going to school paying, right, and I'm spending my time volunteering in a hospital, this must be what I really want to do with my life. And so spiritually, I was really felt called to this. So we were asked to take the paper, rip it out of our notebook, and crumble it up. And I'm like, oh, phew, I don't have to share this spiritual woo-woo stuff with the rest of the room. That's like half my age. And so they're like, okay, now throw the piece of paper. And so I throw the piece of paper, and I'm like, where, what? In the garbage, right? Nope, just throw it into space. Now everybody pick up a piece of paper that is clearly not yours, and you're going to unfold it or, make it nice so that you can read it to the class. So my name's at the top or not at the top, but we have to kind of claim that that's who we are. So who am I? Maybe not quite who is on that paper, right? But it was not who I am, but what my purpose is. Like, why am I here? So it's not really always like who I am. It's my why, my reason for being. And then it's the practice. So sound and nursing and all of the things we do every day, that's our practice. So how you choose to wake up in the morning and in between, then going to bed at night, even with those thoughts, right? And our actions, they really do have an impact. Like you were saying, it really does have an impact on everything, everyone around us. So you made me think of that because it was so funny. I was so scared and intimidated to share why I was really there. And at the end of what they said about me or who I was, the professors both said, on the first day, they said, on the last day of class, our lecture is complementary and alternative medicine. Will you lecture for us? They don't like teaching that, They're done. We're done with all the foundations. It's been a rough, So I did. I presented the bowl the one bowl at the time that I had that I used for my daughter so she could get to bed at night, nice and sound sleep. And I was like, I want to teach. I want to teach. I want to have this impact on people I work with. And I want to feel like I could be who I am, what I'm meant to do. And so it's interesting. Now I'm back here, and you and I talk a lot about this, Lauren, is I'm in that space again where I'm like, oh, people are gonna like think I'm weird and why am I doing this? And they might laugh or joke. And if that's all that's holding me back, I'm waiting for someone to tell me to write it down on a piece of paper and kind of like sneak my way in.
Mhm.
But what's in fact is I think, Lauren, you've paved the way. You're doing
This
exactly.
is this is the pioneer way, is, feeling those feelings of, discord, or wondering like, ooh, like, are people going to think I'm like, probably. But the reality also is that the old ways of how we've been doing things, or the old ways. It's funny because we were into more of the herbal and, holistic ways of healing, and then come, in the what was it, 1940s and 30s, when, like, there was pharmaceutical drugs started coming out and surgery starts advancing, and then it's like we're rapidly moving through time where, we're getting further and further and further away from the more holistic and natural ways of healing, when in reality, the power comes when we're integrating it all together, because there
Mhm.
is power in pharmaceutical medicine. There is power in surgical, very complex procedures. Yet, as we've both experienced on our own and then also begun to integrate it, there is power in, these more holistic and, sometimes more historical ancestral ways, but also some are newer. Crystal alchemy bowls and crystal bowls in general are a much newer finding for sound,
Mhm.
in like the 1980s, I believe it was. And yet the drum is an ancient, ancient, ancient sound healing tool. So we're in a time now where this is like a culmination of so much, modern day, olden day, and this is the time of integration. And what a joy to get to be here together and to be sharing this space. I think, the next question I think for us to share is, why are we together? How did we meet, and how do we plan on, what does it mean to be an integrative nurse, and who is this podcast for? What what's the point of you sitting here and listening to us talk and share, uh for your own, because time is valuable, baby. So we want to make sure that, we're sharing all the ins and outs of what we know, and maybe some stuff that we don't know, because we plan on having some guests as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, all the things.
So why don't you start this time? I started last time. You
Sure.
start. Yeah.
So being a nurse and being a Reiki practitioner and being a sound practitioner, that combination in itself is not, at least in Boston, where I've been located, it has not been a commonality amongst others. And so the lovely world of the internet connected Vicky and I remember seeing nurse practitioner, sound practitioner, yoga practitioner, hypnotherapist. And it was like, what? Whoa, we got all these commonalities. And, here's this woman in another state, New York, in Long Island, doing similar things and wanting similar things to me. And it was like, oh, I need to meet this gal. And started our virtual connection. And then it was, I'm not sure the timing, if it was a year later, or it was some time later that we finally met in person. And it was like we knew each other from other lifetimes, for sure. And from there, it's been a cultivation of becoming wonderful friends and also accomplices in this realm of the world because it's hard being a pioneer and navigating into sharing this work in a space of healthcare, especially in the United States, that's very rigid and that there is a lot of resistance to things that don't have, miles and miles and pages long of research and the one of the big things in healthcare is evidence-based practice, and the hard part is getting people to do the research on some of these topics. And so these are certainly things that we will continue to dive in as well to share. But I think for listeners, it is not just for nurses. I think it is for wellness practitioners and for anyone who's really interested in the evolution of our world of medicine, for what we want it to begin to create and be. Because again, wellness, health is such a buzz term right now, not just because of the pandemic, but just because I think people are starting to wake up and realize how pertinent and how important it is for us to be whole, be in that state of balance, to feel happy, to feel healthy, to feel strong, to age gracefully, to age and grow as little ones as well as older adults. There isn't like a one size fits all for health. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I think that we'll discuss is the toolbox to create the healthcare wellness toolbox that doesn't always have to involve, modern day medicine recommendations, because those old ways are no longer serving us as we continue to see the increase in disease and also the prevalence of depression, anxiety, and just overall not feeling fulfilled or feeling like we're living our best lives.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my take. What's your take, Vic?
Well, Lauren is a superstar to me. I did see Lauren through another wellness center up in Massachusetts um on Instagram, or the social platform that so many people use. And I don't know, it's something I never would have reached out to somebody, and I'm like, wow, she has like a lot of followers. She's like the superstar. And what stood out about Lauren is her vibrant personality and this, I don't know, very open person, like very easy to approach, very approachable. So that's what I did. And we connected that way. And then I was so blessed to have her join when I went up to do a sound healing in that place up in Boston, or just north of Boston, which is actually like the one thing from all of this is, why didn't I meet Lauren sooner? Because I had lived in that area for 10 years. So I often say that to her, it's like, so you only lived like back, half an hour away from me. But there's a reason why we're separated now, is so that we can do things like this. And it was a calling. I don't know, Lauren, if you and I lived so close together, would we do something like this? So the idea of having this is informative and a resource for anybody, really. We talked about having it be a resource for the medical community or health care in general, alternative or Western medicine, whatever it called for. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that this is something that I could even tell my patients, oh, we're going to do, a little chat about pain and alternatives, and give you ways in which you can, manage your pain. Or, hey, we're going to have this speaker on. I think you'd really be interested in hearing. She's going to talk about parenting advice or family life or whatever, stress, depression, anxiety. I feel like we can have so much to offer people. And each day we come together, we'll have a good idea of what we're gonna talk about. And man, I love learning things about things I don't know. So like when a patient comes up to me and says, do you know this? I'm okay with saying no, but I will do my research. And, that's the thing. Medicine, we don't know everything, right? It's called a medical practice for a reason. It's a practice. So sometimes you need to practice to understand things better and see a larger pool of people to understand what's going on. So I think between you and me, Lauren, we can see a broader range of what people are asking for and narrow it down and find some answers for people, or at least have the conversation around it.
Mhm. Definitely. Definitely. We will continue to share all the magic, all the good topics, and certainly we invite you to tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what you want us to find out about or talk about. Our goal is to share what we know and then what we don't know too. Having, whether it's guests or whether we're doing research of our own and having conversations about it. Our goal for this space is for, again, to build the wellness toolbox, to understand new ways of creating integrative wellness. Sprinkle fairy dust sounds.
High five.